Okay. Hello, everyone. This is Chris Cheatham, product evangelist at Bold Penguin, and it is 10 o'clock Central Time, 11 o'clock Eastern. So I'm going to go ahead and get us started. And right off the gate, I'm going to say if I look a little disheveled, I apologize. We had a tornado in my backyard last night. And so there were chainsaws going on all night. There was tornadoes. There's all sorts of stuff. So yeah, it's been an interesting one, but I'm super excited to be here today with Austin and Eric. We have a new product at Bold Penguin called the Storefront Pro, and Austin's firm was one of the first ones to take advantage of that. And so we're going to talk about how they got there, but I'm also interested in his backstory and everything that leads into a decision to buy a new product for your agency. And then we have Eric here as well, who helped spearhead the effort to build this thing. So if you guys want to introduce yourself, that'd be great. Austin, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, I'm Austin Landis with Landis Blosh out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. We've been around for 100 years, but obviously haven't been doing much digital stuff for the majority of that time. But we're about 17 people and right about 85-90% commercial.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Eric, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Chris. Eric Ramah. I am a senior product manager here at Bold Penguin. I've been with the company for about a year and a half now. And what I do in that role is really work on our customer experience and digital strategy for our products. So I spend a lot of time talking to customers, looking at data, seeing how the product's being used, and work with our teams here to bring to life the future of those products. So excited to be here today to chat with you all and talk about our Storefront Pro.
Cool. Yeah, right off the bat, I'll just kind of explain Storefront Pro is kind of like the next evolution as I think about Bold Penguin and digital insurance for commercial parties. So it's like a business can go and start filling in their information on their own, which then gets passed to the agency and they can get quotes, and the process really happens digitally, right? Whereas before, maybe the agent's inputting the information for the business, or they're even going offline. So as I've kind of learned about Bold Penguin, learned about commercial insurance, I realize this is a progression, it's an evolution, and this is like the next step. And I think people are asking for this a lot when I heard about this from you, Eric. But let's pause there before we go too far into that product. And Austin, it sounds like maybe this is a family agency. Is that true? I don't think you've been around for 100 years. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I've been around for close to 100 years, but
no.
So yeah, I'm fourth generation. Really, this is our 100th year in business. So we started in 1922. We did all the oil boom stuff kind of in Oklahoma during that time period, and that's kind of how we got started. But yeah, so I work with my dad, and so it is a family agency.
That's awesome. There's right back here, there's a construction helmet that you can probably see. So I'm in my dad's office right now because I had to go find a place that had internet, and he did surety bonds. Like he worked at Zurich doing surety bonds, and then I became a surety bonds attorney. So totally get the insurance thing running in the family, and I love that. That's awesome. Okay, so family agency, been around for over 100 years. You joined, did you spearhead the effort to hey, we need to get more digital? How did that all come about? Because I think it's always a really hard transition when you have a well-established organization and it's like, okay, we have our processes. Now we're going to go try to make these a little bit more digital. How's that come about?
So we didn't really start off wanting to write small business. When I came on, I worked at an insurance carrier for a while. And then, I just kind of decided I wanted to be in sales of some sort. And, I went to the producer school about 6 or 7 years ago, the State Auto Pacesetter School.
Okay.
And, they have you cold calling all the time. It's great experience. And they have you knocking on doors, collecting X states. And, I got a degree in marketing. I'm very online based. And I was just like, I'd rather have people wanting to talk to me. And so, I just started experimenting online, writing content, making videos, doing all that. And, traffic started to happen on the site. And, I was primarily going after middle market accounts, really 25,000 and up, and ideally, 6 figures. And so I thought, if I wrote content online, got some people looking at me, that those accounts would come to me.
Mhm.
And, as it started happening over years and years, I guess the short answer is, on middle market, I don't think there's a better way than the old school method, but we started getting flooded with small business quote requests, calls, and there's some middle market in there. And so we were like, this is a great opportunity. How do we capitalize on it? So, over time, we got to rocking over 20,000 website viewers a month. And we're like, how do we monetize it? How can we do it efficiently? And then, so we started trying to integrate it in our middle market process. And, it just entering the information in all the carrier sites, doing it kind of the middle market way just wasn't really working for us. And then, so we started kind of going down the rabbit hole about 2 years ago of trying to figure out, how to, make this profitable, how to make this a part of our agency. So we created a small business unit, and then one tool at a time, we just started going. And we went from kind of maybe behind the curve a little bit to probably a little before, like the adoption curve.
Yep.
And, just trying to figure out how to monetize web leads. And, it even got to the point where we were changing the wording on our buttons on our website,
Mhm.
and we'd see like 30% swings on how many leads we were getting. And what really started like our Storefront Pro conversation is we just one day tried to put like online quote on one of them.
Mhm.
And I mean, it just went up a lot,
Hmm.
like 40 or 50% more leads with just changing that word. So we were like, I think there's a market need for wanting it.
Yep.
We're not fully digital on the back end. We still want to talk to them, but it's a good way to get them on. They put in all their information.
Yep.
We can quote multiple carriers, bridge it over real quick. And, from nuts to bolts, if they're ready, we could have that conversation and sell the policy in one single phone call.
That's amazing. Okay, so I want to, in just a moment after we talk to Eric Ramah, I want to jump over to your Storefront Pro site and actually show it to people, talk to people about it, and you can talk through how it works. Eric, I'm curious though, because like I think you have an insurance background too, but then you came through on the building tech side, right? So it's like essentially you're combining your superpowers with Austin and creating this site that can now help small businesses. So can you kind of, how'd you get here? But like, what have you noticed too about small business insurance as it's moved slowly to the digital realm?
Sure. Yeah, the kind of background on my story is, so I started my career at State Auto Insurance, actually. Fresh out of college, I was in claims. So first job, handling auto claims, kind of worked up through auto claims at the company. Got a chance to make a career jump over to a digital creative agency. So it was a 100%, 180 on a career move. That got me into the digital product space and working on efforts to build products. So spent a lot of time working on some large accounts like Sherwin-Williams, White Castle, Huntington Bank, building website enhancements, website features, mobile apps, the things of that nature. So that's how I got into sort of the industry of building products. Spent a few years at Express, the fast fashion company, the mall brand retail that you see in stores. And then kind of got the itch to get back to a smaller, more agency startup like culture. And Bold Penguin presented itself, and it was really just the perfect fit for me at the time in my career. And kind of this like full circle journey of, I started in insurance in my career in a much different realm. And now I get a chance to work in the industry with what I do now. So it's been great.
Yeah. How far do you think we are in, because I mean, you see so many use cases and so many ways that we're building this product and so many ways people are using it. how, like, if you had to put a percentage, 0 to 100, how far are we in kind of making small business insurance like digital, right? Like, as you define, then how do you define it as digital, I guess?
That's a good question. In terms of a percentage, it's hard to say. I think as a whole, we're still early in the journey, but it has come a long way, right? We've seen a lot of growth in terms of digital innovation in, the insurance space as a whole, right? In commercial insurance, it's been lagging behind, as opposed to the personal line stuff, where that's a little bit ahead of the curve, in terms of what you can do digitally. Which has been what's fun about kind of joining this industry and the role that I'm in, is getting to sort of play in that space that has a lot of opportunity. There's not as much innovation yet. Like it's been rapidly growing, and we're hitting that point, in which you're seeing a lot take off, but there's still a lot to do, a lot of problems to solve, which has been, like I said, it's been fun in my role of getting to build digital products there.
Yeah. I keep thinking, when I learned about what you all are doing on the ENS side, like with PathPoint and those integrations, to me, that is the key tipping point for all of this. When we get that all kind of fully integrated, which we're already working with them and getting quotes back from them and binds, like when that's done, then man, it's going to be like complete no brainer, because then you can go walk through the whole journey and get your quote no matter what. Austin, does that fit with what you think? Or like, and if you think about like the other people that that do commercial insurance, like how many of them are doing it digitally right now, right? And how far are we?
So I don't know. It's hard to say, because we've tried, to do the, there's carriers that do the quote to bind where the consumer can go all the way through. And, our model is we present the digital all the way up till the binding. And then our people want to verify the information. And I get the feeling that the human aspect of it won't go away. Like we're not going to ever fully digitize, but we can sure do a lot to make it more convenient and meet our customers where they want to meet. I don't know if they want to start the process with a person like they used to, but generally we're seeing that they might want to end it. And then so, I guess my endpoint to that question might be a little bit different. I do think in the last couple of years, it's gone a lot farther than it has been. But still, linking up all the carriers is a monumental task, and we're not quite there yet. But I mean, it's light years different than it was even 2 years ago.
Yep.
Huge difference.
Really? Okay, so I think it's a good time to jump over to look at your Storefront Pro. So I'm going to do a screen share in just a second. As we think about that, I also am going to want to dive in. So after we go through how it works and kind of like how you think about that site, Austin, I also want to talk about like how you staff up on that side, right? Because you have 17 people, how many are working in that space? And then also like, I always am curious, like how you are driving traffic and kind of digging in a little bit more, actually a lot more there. Because frankly, I think that's really important. If you don't have people going to your Storefront Pro, there's no point in having a Storefront Pro, right? So like what's been successful for you? And like, I'm also really curious, like what's shifting. It seems like the platforms that are out there that are getting eyeballs are kind of shifting as people are getting older and kind of ignoring some things and jumping on a new platform. So just some questions to think about as we go. And for the audience, you'll notice there's a Q&A section. If you want to ask questions, that's great. I'll jump in every once in a while and check out the questions. It looks like we have one, so I'll check that out in just a minute. But let's turn over to your website. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Hey, Eric, can you see that now?
Can.
Awesome. I can't believe that worked. Okay, so actually, Mr. Ramah, can you talk us through this page a little bit? Like, because you helped design this essentially, right? And like build this out. So talk through kind of what we were thinking. I'll scroll down for you and tell us about it.
Yeah, definitely. So this is the landing page of the Storefront Pro. The purpose of this page is to provide sort of an out-of-box overview of what the end consumer is going to get into. As a part of the overall experience, right, on the Landesplosh website itself is where they can tee up and market, hey, start a quote with us. That can direct the user to this page here. that explains, just that, right? You're about to start a quote with us. And as you scroll down the page, it kind of talks through what the end goal is, right? Which is the end business owner seeing a live quote. And then some instructions as you continue to scroll down around, how this works, right? So this is just a nice overview page that, again, is out of the box that comes with this product. That was one of the overarching themes, right? Is we wanted to build something that was easy to stand up. There's no development, no engineering efforts required on the agency side. So Austin's team didn't have to build any of this. It's brandable. As you can see here, it matches their brand colors. There's imagery, and the copy on the screen is all modified and able to be crafted to meet the brand needs of Land Splash. And then really it's just a straightforward, simple, let's get started, and that drops you into the application.
Okay. So Eric, why did we build this? What's different between this and the other stuff? Like we have the agent terminal where agents go in and enter information in and get quotes back. There's carrier portals where you can go information. What is different? Why is this like magical? Why did we make a big deal about this? What's going on here?
Yeah, this is super important to really bridge the gap between and to support our agency partners' needs of delivering this, direct to consumer quoting experience. So as the end business owner is looking for insurance, they're on Land Splash's site, they see the start quote button, they come here and they hit let's get started, and it takes them into the application. What this allows Land Splash to deliver this experience to their business prospects that let them go through a quote or let them go through an application and see quotes that they do business with in terms of those carriers. So all of this is connected to the carrier partners that they do business with. So the quotes that the business owner sees on the end of all this are going to be live quotes that Landis knows we can go place this risk with immediately. The other very important aspect of this is integrated with our other product suite. So Agent Terminal, you mentioned, right? The tool that agents use on Landis' side to quote and bind. The second that someone starts an application here, it generates that application within their Agent Terminal. So as a user fills this out, Landis will be able to pick up that application and see exactly the same information that the business owner filled out. And if the business owner gets all the way through the quote, Landis will see those quotes as well. And it's truly as simple as just picking it up, confirming the information is correct, and they can go make a decision and bind from there. It also delivers those sort of like half moments. So any agency that has lead forms on their site or any types of experience in that regard knows that people bail, right? People bail these experiences. Sometimes they start a form and leave. The beauty of this is as long as someone starts to fill out this first page here and you get information around, name, email address, business name, you still get that application, and it still allows the agency or Landis in this case to make that call and say, we have enough information to still go chase this opportunity, which is, very powerful.
Okay. So like literally somebody fills in the information here, and if they hit continue, Eric, this is for you. If they hit continue, that automatically then passes into the Landis Bold Penguin site, and like they can start seeing, they see, okay, somebody's working on an application right now. Is that how it works?
Even before that. So as long as someone starts to input information in these fields, you get the application. So
okay.
It's real time in that aspect, and it does generate that application and Agent Terminal in real time. So if someone's filling this out and ends up calling in, let's say they hit that need help button in the top right corner, and they see the phone number for Landis and decide to call in. They say, hey, I'm currently working on an application on your site, would rather just talk to a person. Landis can immediately load their Agent Terminal up. They'll see the application right at the top of the queue, be able to open it up and pick up from there, right? All of the information is current and it's immediate. So they can say, hey, I see you were, halfway through, you were working on some business operations details. Let's pick up from there.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here and I'm like pondering. And when I had a company, and like I still remember getting the paper accord form and being like, what is this? And like having to jot it down. And even in like, that was like 2011, and I still thought it was crazy that I was having to fill out a paper application. And like, this is literally what people expect, right? Like you just fill in the information. So, okay, Austin, let's jump over to you. I'm not going to take a quote all the way through, by the way, because I don't want to expose like the carriers you're connected to. If there's any secret sauce there, I just don't feel like doing that. But this goes through then all the way to a quote, I think, if the customer wants to get to that point. So what are you seeing with users that are hitting this up, Austin? Like, kind of what's the behavior? What behavior are you wanting to see? What behavior maybe are you seeing that you're not expecting to see, or that, what's the most common behavior? Like, yeah, just kind of tell us about that a little bit.
Well, having the client fill out all this information, we realize if they get to the end, they're a more solid prospect for us.
Mhm.
If they hit the first page and put in their phone number and then bail, I mean, we started initially calling everyone and figuring out, but as you get more data and more experience, if they're willing to go through the whole thing, they're really looking for a quote. And I would say most people do go through the entire process, and a couple see the form and then bail, and we still have their contact information, but every time we call, we kind of get the answer that we thought. So it's a really good way to have all the information for the clients that really need a quote and want a quote.
Yep.
And then it's a good way to save time for your employees because you already have all their information. Yep. And I feel like we've gotten a lot of efficiency gains from that kind of that natural funnel that this creates.
Do you triage lead or people that are coming in through this site? I almost said leads, Ramah. Do you triage people based on how much information they fill out? So like maybe response time needs to be under X minutes if they go to the end versus Y minutes if they just give us a phone number.
Generally, if they get past this first page, we'll contact them.
Okay.
Because a lot of businesses, they look through the classification list, and I get that. There's a lot of businesses that are stuck kind of in the middle, and then so we don't want to lose those people. But the vast majority of the people will get through the entire thing, and then we'll call them with their quote right after.
Okay.
And we'll generally port it over. We'll get the final number from the carrier. Just make sure there's not any supplemental questions that haven't been answered. But most generally, if with standard bot business, you go through, you'll have a quote. Sometimes if we can't get them on the phone right away, we'll send a video presentation and go through like the official quote.
Yep.
And then you can have like a drip campaign where you call and follow up with them to try and get the deal closed. And coming from us having to collect all this information, which takes about 30 minutes, per prospect.
Yep.
So, we can focus that time on, building relationships and talking over quotes and benefits, and instead of asking them what their yearly revenue is.
Yep. Do you do anything like, let's say you take somebody goes through this and then you get them a quote and they bind and everything. Do you have a process for trying to build a relationship afterwards, right? Because you can close this in one call, it sounds like. I guess do you have a time estimate, by the way, on that one call? Typically, is it like 30 minutes or hour or?
I would say you generally don't rate and bind in the same call.
Okay.
Unless it's, like a very basic account. Okay. But you can a lot of times get a quote and then they want to look it over. Mm-hmm. And then you might get the bind the next week. Okay. But yeah, if that's why building the relationship in spending time, instead of spending time learning how to spell their last name. Yep. You ask them, things about their philosophy on insurance, about their business, kind of connect with them a little bit. Yep. Because, churn is one of the biggest problems with small business is, you not getting the renewal, and the renewals where all the efficiencies come in and the whole system works. Yep. So, we're trying to build relationships instead of collect data now. Okay. And, we've only had this for a couple months, but we're getting the feeling it'll help with people, wanting to shop every year.
Yep.
As long as we're not dropping the ball on anything.
Huh. So would you ever consider proactively like emailing, renewals and being like, hey, it's time to renew. Let's go see your best rate, your best carrier, or however you want to describe that. And like literally push them to this so they can go and shop. They think they are shopping essentially, right? Is that part of your workflow, or have you considered that?
We've considered it. We haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
We don't know. I don't know. We might try it and pilot it with a couple people and see how it works.
Yeah.
Right now, we're just getting all our processes in place for the front end.
Yep.
And if someone asks us, to remarket or they have a big increase, we sometimes point them to this.
Okay.
But we haven't systematically gotten there yet because we're still just trying to find our bearing a little bit.
Totally. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if you could predict which accounts are most likely to churn. And I have no idea what data would show that. Maybe that's the ones you proactively, try to either get them quotes I know that kind of goes against the renewal process almost, right? But I guess another question for you then is, are you hearing from carriers that push back on this idea of requoting during the renewal process? Because I know they don't always like that. Have you heard anything around that?
With like more digitized bot business, doesn't run their overhead up as high. If it's online quotable, quote to bind in like the travelers portal, it's not going to run their underwriters every single year on a bunch of supplementals. And so, we haven't heard a lot of problems with that, because generally it doesn't take much touch. If you're in a coastal area and everything had to be referred, you'd probably hear something.
Okay. I'm going to check the Q&A and pause for a moment and just see what we got, because it looks like we have a couple questions that popped up. So one question asks, is this recorded for future viewing? Absolutely. I'm saying a lot of brilliant stuff, so I want to make sure that's recorded so you can listen to it again. Second one is from Michael. Okay, so this is a great question. So he says, after being in the insurance world for 30 plus years on commercial, there's so many moving parts, like in commercial insurance. I would be afraid that the client would drop the ball if there was not some kind of personal touch. What are your thoughts on that? So Austin, you want to jump on that one? And then Eric, I'm curious your thoughts too, from having both sides of the industry covered.
Yeah, and we would agree with that.
Yeah.
Without the personal touch, and we've tried it without very briefly. And because we were just testing what the customers wanted, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't super successful. There was a whole lot of churn on the book that didn't get the personal touch. And we think it's a balancing act. It's kind of like enabling your producers to sell more efficiently with technology versus totally getting rid of that service and talking to them every renewal and stuff like that. I agree.
Yep. Yeah, it's there was another agency, and I just remember how they, their business model was built on no touch, right? And it just proved time and again that people wanted to have that touch with an agent. And so they haven't seen that kind of take hold like they expected.
And that's why people choose independent agents, because I think we're the best at it.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, honestly, we may not be having this conversation if people prefer just going straight through. Yeah, we would not be. I can legitimately say all the, insurtechs and the PE firms that are putting money in would have figured out the straight to quote to bind. And I think that's actually one of the big macro lessons of the last insurtech wave. And it's kind of, it's easy for me to talk about at Bold Penguin and previous company Risk Genius. Like, people still need and want agents, and frankly the technology isn't far enough along even if people didn't want that touch from an agent. And so we did not
a lot of clients still want the stamp of approval and an expert looking over their stuff. If that wasn't true, I couldn't help but think that the direct to consumer model would have taken us over by now, and
Yeah.
they haven't. And I think that's largely in part to the, the personal touch that we provide, through the agents, and kind of the good parts of the more traditional model.
Yeah. How much, so this is just a weird offshoot a little bit, but I was talking with one of our data scientists who works on our ClauseLink product this morning, which like evaluates insurance policy language. And I'm curious, like, how much time do you spend evaluating insurance policy language? And like, do customers ask about that stuff, or are they more curious about just the broad, brush strokes of what does this cover? So like, how do you think about that? And then kind of like a sub question of that is like, did you have a lot of inquiries during kind of the pandemic and the business shutdowns around business interruption, and how did you handle those, particularly around the policy language? So, yeah.
Yeah. So customers generally don't ask about it a lot, but I spend a lot of my time doing it, because
doing like reading policy language.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we feel like customers trust us to do our job so that they don't have to really worry about it as much.
Okay.
And, so we read over the exclusions on every single quote that comes out the door. We know the limitations. Most of, our staff have, CICs and, stay up to date on all the stuff, because, what do they hire us for? And so even if they're not asking about it, and generally very few people even make it past the schedule of endorsements page on a policy, but I still feel like it's a lot of what we do, especially when they ask a question, and then you really have to dig in to find out, to make sure you're advising correctly, so there's no surprises if it doesn't go as planned. But yeah, I feel like we all spend significant time, and depending on the composition of the book, like our construction people probably spend even more time.
Yep, that makes sense. Okay. Eric, do you have anything to add around, I guess, any misconceptions or things that you've realized about what businesses want in terms of kind of agent interaction, and like how you think about that, particularly as you built the Storefront Pro?
Yeah, definitely. So that honestly was one of the kind of like main strategic pillars in all of this, right? Is the human to human element isn't going to go away in this industry. I don't think it should, right? Digital is not meant to take that over. It's meant to, partner with that sort of need, right? So commercial insurance is complex, right? Like I can go look at an auto policy and kind of make a decision and understand, the moving pieces to it. But as the comment in the question had said, right, there are so many moving parts to commercial insurance. You're always going to need that expert. So when we built this, it was designed to support that need of, how quickly can we get an agent involved and up to speed on what's going on, and let them, interject and take over, or, join the conversation that this customer is trying to have. The flip side of that, right, is this is an expectation that every person expects now with almost any type of experience, right? We've all been trained and all been, it's a part of our daily lives with anything that you're interacting with, is that there's some type of digital experience that is associated with, what you're looking to do. So this is meeting that need, right, of the consumer, right? It's not just about commercial insurance, it's about how they use all digital products. And this blends those two worlds together in a way that's still useful to the agent and meets the customer need. So yeah, no, I don't think a direct to consumer fully digital experience is ever going to fully take over. Now this can support it when an end customer lands on the quote page of this experience. If the carrier does support a consumer bridge to bind, we do support that behavior. But again, it's at the end of the day, it's up to the agency how they want to utilize the Storefront Pro as a part of their business. So they can opt to try to generate traffic towards that direct to consumer bridge to bind. They can opt to have the end result be, hey, give us a call. Here's your quotes. We're going to contact you, or you can reach out to us immediately, and we'll discuss your options in more detail. Right? We want to support both worlds, and this product, allows the flexibility to do so.
Very cool. Okay, that's a great segue where you mentioned the direct to bind as well. We're getting a lot of great questions, so I appreciate that. Keep them coming. So Robbie has a question, and Austin, I'm going to kind of direct this towards you to start. Robbie was on an E&O webinar, and as a former lawyer, I think about E&O a lot. So he says without interaction, it could make us susceptible to like lawsuits. That's like kind of a hypothesis, I think. So what's the need for an agent if the consumer can quote bind without? So basically, I'm going to kind of summarize that. And Robbie, let me know if I get this wrong, but it sounds like, do you think about if somebody can do direct bind via your website, well, how do you think about that in terms of suits, or what you need to be doing to make sure that small business is properly advised? Have you thought through that kind of paradigm?
Yeah, and you might know more about this, but there's one line of thinking that if they rate themselves, provide all the information, or provided a quote, let's say, through Coterie or Hiscox, those are, the direct to bind, and they read the quote and they decide to take it.
Yep.
What is our duty to them if they don't ask for it and they provided all the information direct? And if there's a misunderstanding, would that be our E&O if the carriers are the one that designed the portal that caused the misunderstanding?
Yeah, that's it.
And I think the law is kind of views agents as like our duties are, they tell us what they want and we tell them whether we can provide it or not in a reasonable, timely manner. And if they don't ask for help, how, is it our duty from a legal liability standpoint to provide it?
Yeah. No,
I don't know. And we don't do a lot of direct to bind
on purpose, probably. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the E&O stuff, I think more of it on you're more susceptible to it on the mid and large size accounts and large policies, right? So where you're kind of doing bespoke or requesting stuff or needing to advise the customer. And so, yeah, I'm not going to wade too far into that one, but yeah, I think it's something that's going to get settled out here, particularly in the mid to large accounts though, going forward. Okay, moving forward. Somebody had a funny quote there. All right, so Eric, this is on the product side for you. Is this embeddable or able to be iframed into your own website? And like, how do you think about that? I think it just connects to the website too. It's just like LinkedIn. So how do you all set this up related to other companies' websites?
Yeah, great question. This came up a lot in our user feedback sessions that we had early on in designing the product itself. So we met with customers like Landis and a few others to talk through, hey, these are some initial designs, how the experience work, what do you think, to help craft how this came to life. Embeddable experience was something that came up. In terms of how, we at Bold Penguin and a lot of companies deliver products is, there's a point in which that you feel the product is like production ready, right? Go live time. Let's get this in users' hands. Let's get people using it. Let's understand how it's being used and where we can go from there. Embeddable is something that we want to do and is on the roadmap. It's just not in this first cut here. So as we continue to evolve the product, this is one of the great things about what we do, right? Is it's a constant evolution based on feedback that we're getting and data that we're seeing. We'll continue to enhance this product, and embeddable is one of those things that we definitely want to get to. We understand the value and power of keeping a user or a consumer on your own website and on your own experience. So to sort of recap how it works today, right? This is just it's a link, right? So you can take this link, you can put it behind a start quote button on your site. You can email the link out to customers. You can put it on your social. You can put it in your email signature, right? And that's right now the primary source of driving traffic to it. And then, it's a standalone experience here, once they leave your site. But embeddable is definitely in the future.
Cool. So Michael Glick had a question similar to what you just answered, Eric. Yes, obviously this is a link then that can be sent to the customer. And I'll add a note that I was at a conference recently and an agency came up or an agent came up and he's like, hey, I use Bold Penguin. I was like, cool. Tell me about it. And he had a great mechanism where he had made friends with a referral source in his state. I believe it was like a particular carrier that has an agency, like a captive agency, but they couldn't do commercial insurance, particularly in a few lines. And so he had made friends with those captive agents. And every time they had a new account that they wanted to refer him, he had an email pre-typed that was like, hey, thanks for the referral. Here's a link to get started. And he would actually send them the link to the Storefront Pro, and that referring agent would then input the information, which I was surprised at, but that's amazing, right? That's like a perfect handoff on a referral. So yes, this is you would just, I think, Eric, you would just use this link up here essentially, and you could embed that however you want, wherever you want. Is that correct?
It is correct.
Yep.
It is that straightforward.
Awesome. Okay. There's a comment around direct to buying customers should still be contacted by the agent. Seems like that's a consensus of the panelists as well. So totally makes sense. Cool. All right. So let's see. Lots of great questions. Austin, I'd like to talk to you a little bit like on your journey with Bold Penguin and going digital, and particularly the people, right? Because that's can be really hard, particularly if people. So I guess, how did your agency approach that? Some questions to think about are like, did you hire new people that were more interested in the digital side? Did you train up your existing people on the digital side? Did you spin out a small business unit? One of my favorite agencies that's done this is they actually created like a Bold Penguin room and had people in that room doing the work. And that I was like, that's awesome. So like, how did you approach going digital with your agency and interacting with a new product like Bold Penguin? And then what did you do to train up specifically on the Storefront Pro? And yeah.
Yeah, so we did create a small business unit.
Okay.
That, I think a $200,000 client won't really want to, put in a 60 vehicle auto schedule on this, but small business loves it. And so, we're looking for repeatable, scalable processes. And then, so the step was to create a small business unit. And, for a while, I kind of, man the production of it, so I could get my finger on what's really going on. What are our customers wanting? Are they wanting the digital, or are they wanting the call? So I just sat there for a while and just tried everything. And I do think people want to start off digitally at night. We get more quotes after 5 than we get during the day.
Yep.
And they're all running through the system. And then it got to the point where, we needed to hire some salespeople. And by then we kind of already had a lot of our digital stack ready. And really a lot of our employees in the small business unit kind of want to work remote. And so you have to use digital tools to work remote. And our volume is so high that unless you use the digital tools, you would be underwater in a matter of a week.
Huh.
And so it's either digital tools or it doesn't work. And, granted, the rest of our agency, our personal lines is pretty digital, but our middle market, we use, things like Indio to kind of help expedite it, but it's not quite as digital, running. We don't have like text messages and emails automatically going out of Salesforce for our middle market. Mm-hmm. And so, we still have a large portion of our agency that's just very hands-on and less digital. And so, people that are high digital adopters, if they want to work in the small business unit, they can. And we generally hire people that are high digital, like they feel very fluent with technology just going into it. Because if you can't just work digital, I believe our producers are handling like 100 leads each in the small business unit, and you would get underwater very quickly without automation.
Yep. Yep. Because like, is it as simple as, if you're inputting the information in Bold Penguin, you're getting back quotes from, I don't know, 5 to 20 carriers, depending on how many you're set up with, versus you'd have to go to those 5 to 20 carriers individually to get the quotes back? Is it literally that simple, or am I missing something?
Yeah, I mean, there's much more to it than the actual quoting. Like
Yep.
getting the customer on the hook is like 80% of it.
Okay.
And this helps with that. But, we have all their information, and then, we're following up for 14 days through every channel we can. We're trying to get the quote in front of them. And that's where people get really bogged down. And having this information makes that much easier.
Okay.
Because, it's easier to call someone and leave them a voicemail to talk about their quote than to offer to set an appointment to quote.
I see. Yep. Do you take any of the information they provide you and try to do like targeted advertising to them on like Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram or anything like that? That's a kind of a weird offshoot, but I'm curious if that ever pops up.
Not yet. Right now we're running pretty close to capacity.
Okay. Yep.
We're not looking, for additional leads till we're figuring out how to best, implement the storefront in our processes. I think running ads and everything is the logical next step to what we're doing, but it's not something we're doing now, because I mean, if we got any more leads, a month, we'd be running pretty tight.
Okay, Eric, let's remember this for a reference later on. We're providing too many leads to the Landis agency. Okay, so and going back to kind of onboarding your employees to use this, do you have like a like a basic, how long does it take to get somebody comfortable using kind of Storefront Pro and then taking the leads into, or not the leads, the quoting into the agent terminal and working through? Like, how long do you think it takes someone to get comfortable in this process?
It didn't really require any training with, we hired a new producer maybe 3 months ago, and we almost trained on everything except it.
Wow.
Because, it's just like, it shows up, it's there, their CRM's telling them to give them a call, they just log in. I think we had one time we accidentally locked them outside of the quote because they were anxious to get it and they assigned it to themselves, and locked the customer out.
Yep.
But that happened once, and it's really been it just kind of appears, and all the information's there, and then you give them a call and maybe port through a quote if it's a good fit for a carrier. It's pretty straightforward. It's not as complicated as an AMS or like a Salesforce or any of that. It didn't really require much training.
This is funny because we did not script any of this, I promise. And Eric, you're going to want to use this for your bonus discussions later on, because it sounds like you made a product that requires no training. So that's pretty great. Okay, a couple more questions. Eric, I've been thinking about this question, so help me answer. Actually, tell me if I have an answer to this that's correct or not, because I had to be a little creative. So that Melissa asked, will Bold Penguin and the Storefront Pro be usable with carriers not on Bold Penguin? Right. And so I'm curious, like, does the Accord form export play into this, or how would that work? Is there a solution where you can go to a carrier's off platform? Can you answer that one?
Yeah, there's a few options there, and as it stands today, right, the Storefront Pro is connected to your active carrier panel. The reason being, right, is we want to put quotes in front of your customers that we know that you can go bind through Agent Terminal. Now, once it lands in Agent Terminal, there are options that you have in terms of downloading a Accord form, right? So you can take that Accord form away and go off platform. There's going to be instances where they fill out an application here that isn't in appetite for anyone on your panel. So that would be, one of the paths there, right? Is you still get the person's information and get what they're after, and you may have other solutions that can satisfy those needs. Now we're constantly working to add in, some of those additional options. Chris, you had mentioned PathPoint, the NS provider. We're expanding into those other spaces to continue to meet those other needs. One of the options is our exchange, right? So Bold Penguin's exchange is a program, if you're not familiar, that allows you to, two things, right? You can receive ready vetted prospects that are then transferred to your agent terminal that allow you to action on them and bind those needs. The other avenue there is you can send prospects into the exchange, right? For customers that just don't fit your eye, they don't fit your appetite, isn't a risk that you want to take on, but you can still monetize that opportunity and send it into our exchange to be connected with someone who would. So that is another product that we have available, right? That is connected to all these experiences, and is something also on the roadmap here that we're going to want to wire up as well. That completely digitizes that experience.
Excellent. Austin, I'm curious, do you ever have conversations with carriers that, have not necessarily built out APIs or gone digital? Do you have conversations with them? Do you ever suggest them, hey, maybe you want to try to do this? Do those happen, or you just kind of just ignore it and don't really worry about it?
Well, kind of depends on the carrier. Our middle market oil and gas carriers, they don't really, have any interest in BOPs or any of that. And so we don't really talk to them about it. But, people that come in our office and talk about wanting more BOP business, kind of more Main Street, absolutely. At this point, the customer's entering the information. We're choosing from the carrier panel and our expertise on who actually writes this stuff at the end of the day for most of us. We port it over, we present the quote, and, we're not really going to spend a whole lot of time going out of that system to reach out to a carrier unless there is a substantial reason to. Because if you have a producer or a CSR quoting 50 a month or something, to go outside of the carrier eats up a lot of, or outside of Bold Penguin eats up a lot of time. And, and also it depends on if they have an easy to rate, BOP system, it can take more time. It can take a lot of time. Some carriers are easy, but yeah, it's just, if you want BOPs, I think this is kind of the future.
It kind of seems like it's the now, right? It's just, it's already happening. All right, so we have another question. I'll try to jump into more questions in the chat in just a moment. This might be a good one of the good last ones. So, and I did not make this up. This is right there. They're asking about pricing for Storefront Pro. So I think, Eric, without going into specifics, the question actually says, is this basic standard pricing for the Storefront Pro, or is it custom case by case? So if you want to cover that one, that'd be great.
Yeah, definitely. The Storefront Pro it's a part of, I guess, a family of products, right? So there's a Storefront Lite, so to speak, right? That gets you through a part of the application flow. It doesn't show the full quote, but it allows you to at least capture who you're talking to, what business classification they are, the product that they're after. Storefront Pro is the next step of that, which allows you to get through the full application, show quotes to your end consumers, and layer on all those capabilities of direct to bind if you want. That in terms of pricing, there is some standard pricing around that model. So it's not a custom case by case basis there. However, we do have another iteration of this in terms of a more storefront enterprise offering that is more customizable. Now that would bring into play that sort of custom pricing based on how is going to be crafted and the needs that you have there, but there's a lot more flexibility in terms of custom support, custom development to really craft this specific to your needs. But the Storefront Pro was truly designed to be this sort of out of the box solution that you can quickly stand up, like, essentially day one, right? Like once we have all the information, the copy that you want to use for the experience, the coloring, the branding, like these things are able to be turned on. You can start driving traffic to it immediately. It is really the thought there. So a few options, right? And I would encourage anyone that wants to hear more. There was a question in here about seeing, the end-to-end flow. As Chris had mentioned early on, this is Landis's live experience, so we're not going to run a full flow through, but we'd be more than happy to set up some time to demo the full experience, show you exactly how it works, how it's integrated with Agent Terminal, and how this full thing can come to life for your business.
Excellent. Okay, I'm going to work through some questions really quickly because we have about 5 minutes and pull you in if there's anything that hits. Tanvir, you're asking about a demo. We can just do a demo for you. You're asking about running a sample quote. The reason I'm not doing that right now is I don't want to reveal any of the Landis secret sauce in Carrier Panel or anything that they do beyond just this basic page that you see here. So if you want to do a demo, happy to do that. Go to boldpenguin.com and you'll see in the top you can request a demo, and we're happy to do that. Michael's asking, is the link unique to the agent so it shows up on our dashboard? I'm not sure what you mean by dashboard, Michael, but I do know that you can see that the Landis Blush name is right there on the link. So we create one of those for each agency so that it's unique to them. Yeah, go ahead.
Chris, I think you're asking, once this application is started and filled out, does it appear within your Agent Terminal and on your dashboard there? The answer is yes. Right? The second someone starts filling this out, it automatically creates that same application in your Agent Terminal for you to action on and pick up. So it's an immediate link. You immediately see who's working on the application when it's been completed. Austin actually laid out a scenario where an agent got so excited they jumped in early while the customer was actually live filling out the application. While that's not the ideal use case, it does show the immediate nature in which these two experiences are connected with your Bold Penguin Agent Terminal.
Okay. Brandon has a question here. This is for you, Austin. Are you using, and if you don't want to answer this, I totally get that, not a problem, but it's, are you using Bold Penguin's exchange to receive prospects, or are you doing this all via the organic work you're doing on social media channels?
Yeah, I think we're trying the exchange right now, and to buy kind of like niche leads for some of our niches. But I would say most come in organically.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We're trying to use the exchange to support various programs that we're trying to, either run or fire up.
Yeah, when I first joined Bold Penguin, I actually did my own personal ROI analysis, and that was kind of the secret sauce to me. Is you figure out as an agency how to generate your own organic prospects, and then supplement that with Bold Penguin prospects, and then do it all in one location. And if you want to get really crazy, decide that there's certain classes you don't like or don't want to do, and sell those back in so that other people that are more efficient on those types of businesses can handle those. So yeah, sounds like you headed down that path.
And yeah, you can handle, programs pretty efficiently. And, we're testing out that kind of use case for it. And, maybe setting up a kind of like a programs people to run those through. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Brandon has a question, and Eric, I'm going to let you jump on this one. Is this any different than the client quote start that is in the Bold Penguin terminal now?
Yeah, love it. So that was the sort of, I'll say the beta version of this, right? So similar in concept, right? It was the client quote start experience in which a business owner can fill out the general information step here, the business classification and what product they're after, and it then connects to your Agent Terminal. So that was, again, like the first version of this before we fully vetted this out. again, it was designed to, one, be useful to anyone that took advantage of it, and two, to give us learnings on how, this sort of experience lands in the market. So this is the next step of that, right? It's a fully branded experience, more customization options. Again, Storefront Pro lets a business owner get all the way through to see quotes. So it's the next step for Client Quote Start, which will soon be transitioned over fully to the Storefront family name.
All right, I'm going to just handle this last one, and then we are at time. I always like to be respectful of people's time. So Tanvir asked, what is the Bold Penguin Exchange? That is where small business prospects are received that are looking to be matched up with an insurance agent. And so we do that matching right within the Bold Penguin Exchange. So yeah, matching small businesses to agents. That the agent then takes that small business and gets them quoted and moves on, so everyone can make that commercial insurance exchange happen very quickly. So I appreciate everyone's time today. Melissa, I see I didn't get your questions answered. Tanvir, how do we get started? Just I'll make sure we get back to you. I think we have your information. An email will go out with this recording afterwards as well. If you want to watch this, if you just really want to hear my voice a lot, you definitely can just listen as much as you want. And I appreciate everyone's time. Austin, thanks for joining us. I know you just got back from vacation, so I appreciate that. There's no tornadoes outside my window right now, so all's well in Kansas City. And Eric, excellent job on building Storefront Pro. If you all have questions, just let us know. There's lots of different ways to get to Bold Penguin, but you can just easily respond to the email that we send out with this recording. And thank you for your time today.
Thanks, everyone.